This is Professor Upfer, and this is the third part of our lecture on personality. And I want to go to an issue that is raised by trait theories in general. You probably are familiar with the idea of birthstones. So the idea is that if you're born in January, you're a garnet. If you're born in February, you're an amethyst. If you're born in March, you're a bloodstone, and so on. And your birthstone is just determined by when you were born. Your birthstone might change over time, might get dusty, it could be polished, but you can't change the kind of stone that you have. Your birthstone is rightly called your birthstone, not the stone you chose. If you maybe like onyx more than agate, but you're born in the wrong month, too bad, there's nothing you can do about it. And I'm afraid that this is a common view of our personality, that when we have these personality traits, that they're sort of like birthstones, that they're fixed and unchangeable, that they're outside our control. They just are what we're born with. And I personally think that this is a mistake, and I believe that because of what we see in modern theories of personality. Well beyond these traits, the social cognitive and humanistic approaches to personality emphasize the role of our beliefs, the beliefs that we choose, our pursuit of goals, or whether we don't pursue goals, and our self-control, or whether we don't exercise self-control, in shaping our personality. And I want to conclude the lecture by looking at this approach to personality as well. Now, in general, the social cognitive perspective is based on research on learning, cognition, and social influence. It focuses on beliefs and habits that increase or decrease our ability to take control of our lives and accomplish goals. As good of an exemplar of this approach as any comes from the popular or maybe notorious Jordan Peterson, whose book 12 Rules for Life, An Antidote to Chaos, was an international bestseller and made him a popular personality on YouTube. Now, outside of Peterson's Rules for Life, I think there's a much longer line of research in the tradition that he's engaged in. One of the oldest ideas, and it's quite central to personality, as well as getting to the issue of a theory of personality, is the idea of a locus of control. This was proposed by the Ohio State psychologist Julian Rotter. It's the belief that rewards are controllable by one's own efforts. That's called an internal locus of control. Or the beliefs are not controllable by one's own efforts. This is what's known as an external locus of control. Now, generally speaking, this belief has a large influence on personality. So people who believe that rewards are controllable by their own efforts show more optimism and less depression. And so the result is that they show higher emotional stability. They also do achieve more in their lives, and they also engage in more health-promoting activities. Moreover, our sense of locus of control, whether it's internal or external, is highly correlated with whether or not we're successful at setting and achieving difficult goals. If we set and achieve a difficult goal, it has the effect of increasing our internal locus of control. It's closely related to another important idea, which is the idea of self-efficacy. This was proposed by Albert Bandura, who was famous for the Bobo doll experiment. Self-efficacy is a belief about your ability to perform specific tasks. So if you think that you're capable of achieving in, say, a math class, we might say that you have high math self-efficacy. But it's also a belief about your general ability to perform tasks. Do you think that you're capable of succeeding in life? Individuals who think that they're generally capable of succeeding in life are said to have high self-efficacy. And individuals who agree with comments like, I'm a capable person, tend to be low in anxiety, low in emotional instability or neuroticism. They set specific, difficult, and realistic goals, and they achieve more. And so there's a kind of self-reinforcement to these two ideas. A high internal locus of control helps us set specific, difficult, realistic goals that we can achieve. When we achieve them, we have an increase to our sense of self-efficacy, which then leads us to set specific, difficult, realistic goals, which when we achieve them, increases our internal locus of control. So there's this sort of self-reinforcement to self-efficacy and an internal locus of control. Also, we know that differences in cognitive processing also play a large role in personality. Differences in personality aren't just about how we feel, but also about how well we think. And a good example of this comes from a task that is meant to measure the delay of gratification. It's sometimes called the marshmallow task. And in the task, a child is given a marshmallow, and they're told that if they wait until the experimenter returns, they can have 2 marshmallows. And the experimenter leaves the room and leaves the child alone at a table with a marshmallow. Originally, the task was done for about 20 minutes, and experimenters would time how long it took before the child would either eat the first marshmallow, or if they waited the whole 20 minutes and then got the second marshmallow. Now, not everybody likes marshmallows, so really the way they did the task is they gave kids a choice of either a toy or a marshmallow or whatever kind of reward. And they could either have it now or ring a bell when they couldn't wait anymore, and then they could just have the toy. So it wasn't just about marshmallows. There's different versions of this task depending on the age of the child. Let me show you an example of a version of this delay of gratification task.
Can you put your hands right here on these hands? Good job. And then, in this little cup, I'm going to put an M&M. I'm going to hide it under this cup. And you're going to try and keep your hands here. And then when I ring this bell, you get to get the M&M. Does that sound like fun? Yeah. Anything with M&Ms is fun, huh? Yeah. Can I put it back? Thank you.
I'm okay now.
Are we ready to play again? Yeah? We'll wait till you chew that M&M, then we'll have another one. Is it good?
Yeah.
All gone?
Yeah.
Yeah? Okay. Practice one more time, okay? Put your hands there. Good job. Hide the M&M. Then when I ring the bell, what happens? You get the M&M. Then ring the bell. Good job. A green one. Yum. Thank you.
I
You ready to do another one?
Yeah.
We'll wait till you chew that one and then we'll play again, okay? That's how we play our game. Does that sound like a fun game?
know.
Yeah, okay.
Look at that.
Your hands go right there. Good job. Okay, are you all set? Remember, try to wait until I ring the bell to get your M&M, okay? Good job. You waited. A yellow one. Good stuff. Another one?
Yeah.
Wait till you chew that one, then we'll have another one, okay? Okay. Is this a fun game?
Yeah.
Yeah. All set? Okay? Okay, here we go. We'll try and wait till I ring the bell. Good job, Aaron. A red M&M.
Put this in here right here, cover it with the cup, and you have to wait until I ring the bell, okay? Ready?
Go. That sounds good. Hey, wait a minute. Wait a minute.
You didn't wait.
Wait a minute.
But you know what? We're gonna try again.
Minute.
But remember, Clint, you have to keep your hands right here. Keep your hands where my hands are. Put your hands where my hands are, okay?
Okay.
And let me have my cup too, because I need to use it to play. Okay. Wait. We gotta put the M&M right here. I'm gonna cover it with the cup, and you have to wait till I ring the bell, okay?
Oh,
Ready?
wow. That's
All right, so clearly there are individual differences in the ability to delay gratification. The other thing that's interesting to notice about this is that there are certain strategies that the first child used to delay gratification, cognitive strategies, behavioral strategies, and physiological strategies, that the second child who had difficulty waiting very long did not use. So one of the things that you saw her do as a cognitive strategy is you might have noticed that as she was waiting for the bell to ring, she looked at the bell and not the M&M. By looking at the bell and not looking at the M&M, she was able to, in part, distract herself from grabbing the M&M, which wasn't looming large in her sight. Contrast, the second child actually put his head right on the cup so that basically all he could see was the object of his desire. Another strategy was that she put her hands in a particular place on a mat. This was a way that allowed her, again, to distract herself from the M&M, but it also allowed her to sort of calm herself down. She also, to sort of calm herself, would breathe, take a big breath, and regulate her arousal level in that way. Or she might kick the floor as a way of letting out her nervous tension. these are strategies that will differ from a child to child. Some kids need to be taught these. Many kids discover these strategies on their own without anybody teaching them. But this is important. It's important in lots of ways. Namely, self-control in 4 to 5-year-old children is highly correlated with adult competence and many aspects of personality. So it's correlated with the ability to concentrate as an adult. It's correlated with verbal fluency, with general competence, with foresight, with high credit scores. And it's negatively correlated with emotional stability. So people who have a hard time controlling themselves when they're 4 or 5 are more likely to get rattled and to be immature under stress. They tend to have lower self-esteem. They're slower to make social contacts. They're also more likely to get a divorce. Still, another way that we shape our own personalities is in the personal projects that we choose for ourselves. I'm sure you can think of some difficult long-term goals you might have. Maybe it's getting an A in psychology. Maybe it's finishing your term paper and doing a really good job on it. These types of difficult long-term goals we can call personal projects. They help to organize our activities. So to get an A in psychology, you have to watch the lectures, do the post-lecture quizzes, you have to study for the exams and do the term papers, and you have to coordinate it with all the other chosen projects that you have. And how well people do on their personal projects is very strongly correlated with how happy they are. It's a good way to be happy is to be successful at the goals you set. But there's another thing about it that's interesting, and that is sometimes our projects require us to act out of character. Maybe a project like getting an A in psychology class, maybe you could imagine that I had a presentation that you had to give to the class every week. So every week you have to stand up in front of the class and report on some finding that you made in a psychology journal, or maybe you have to talk about your childhood or something like that. Well, if you're an introvert, this might cause you to feel a lot of anxiety. Might cause you a feeling of distress. You'd be acting out of character. But if you put that A in psychology as being your first goal, something that you put even above the feeling of distress or the feeling of acting out of character, you might, as they say, fake it until you make it. You might try to project the feeling of being an extrovert. What you're doing there is you're adopting what Brian Little calls a free trait. This free trait, when you're acting out of character, initially causes you distress, but over time, these free traits can become our second nature. So Dr. Little, for example, is, by his own description, shy and an introvert. He's also an incredibly popular lecturer at Harvard and at Cambridge before that. And so his shyness didn't impede his career because he adopted this free trait, at least provisionally. This is one way that our personalities are partly determined by the projects that we choose. To put it somewhat simply, you are what you pursue. So I think the bottom line is that although personality traits may have origins in genetic predispositions and experiences outside our volition, our beliefs about ourselves and other people, the goals that we set, and our ability to self-control also make us the people we are. Thank you.